Hey guys, welcome to my run in Weapon Trial 3 Stage 70 in Sword of Convallaria. Similar to Weapon Trial 2, the level 70 stage requires proper setup, so I'll be going through the setup first before heading into the battle. I will also include a link to Weapon Trial 2 in the video description in case you want to check it out, and there will be timestamps as well in case you want to skip the setup and go straight into the battle. I would highly recommend going through the setup though, because I would be talking a bit about the changes that I made and some of the key things required for Weapon Trial 3 Stage 70. First things first is actually the tactics. One important thing is that you need to have a high enough initial TP. I have mine at 348 as such, and you also need to have round restore and turn restore somewhat decently. Mine isn't the highest, but at this rate, you have enough to say use the Flag of Convallaria and still have leftover for the other tactics, because you will be using all three during the battle. The first tactic is Urgent Order, and this is very important. This allows you to get in one extra attack before the boss dispels the shield, and you do need to break through the shield before the boss does his turn. Otherwise, the boss next attack after the shield will also add additional damage based on the remaining shield value it has. The other thing is Pursuit Order. For the same reason, this allows your key magical or physical DPS to act twice in one turn, making it much easier to break through the shield. So next up is the 5 party members that I use. First things first, I did not use Inanna. I did try a lot using Inanna, but I just don't have enough damage to make it through, so I had to forego Inanna for another DPS. And Inanna would be ideal to use because Inanna actually has the Magic Command Aura, Magic Defense Command Aura, which helps make survivability easier, and she can also use Princess Prayer, of course, to allow your key DPS to act twice. But unfortunately, I really just don't have the space, and I had to let her go. Anyway, so first things first is Cocoa. Cocoa is my main healer actually in this run, but the main reason I'm using Cocoa is really for her buffs. The stat difference between level 70 versus level 60 is pretty huge, and so you do really want to have Iron Pots 2 to grant additional crit to your party members, and this will also be your main heal throughout. Cocoa's treasure chest is also very important, namely the Snow Lotus that allows you to add damage up buff and damage reduction buff, and this also doubles as emergency healing through her Springy Bandage or Ancient Potion if you really need to. One important thing though is do not use Potluck Protector. If you have it equipped, actually remove it for something else, because if you have this equipped, Cocoa will jump in when the boss does single target attacks, and the single target attacks may one-shot Cocoa unless you have her, defensively built versus magical attacks. So for that reason, I actually removed it and I just gave her Mountain Tribes. You can also give her the Try the Pan, but I never really used it at all. There's no need to knock back on this stage. So for that reason, I just gave her the Mountain Tribes. So next up is the main magical DPS. I have no choice, I have to use Nungle. The only 2 magic DPS I have is Nungle and Momo, and this fight is predominantly single target and the boss doesn't move, so Momo isn't really ideal. My Nungle also only has a level 50 weapon. I don't have enough materials to upgrade it yet. Well, actually I do, but I'm sort of saving it for Safiya, but we'll see. Nungle is my main DPS and I have her built around her basic attack. I did try to use Deadly Aim, but I really find that it's too sort of clunky to get through. So using Sniping Stance and then just spamming basic attack actually is more than enough to get magical damage through. And she does quite a lot of damage here, especially when she's supported by the buffs from Cocoa. For physical DPS, I have Ravia, my breaker. And Ravia is there to break through the physical shield. I also gave her Dispelling Strike in case I need to really dispel the stacking buff on the boss. But if you only have this, it's not enough. You need to have another form of Dispel. But this Dispelling Strike basic attack is good as a backup dispel if you really need it in a pinch. Beyond that, really, she's just using her Tropical Cyclone to do as much damage as she can to the boss. And when the boss summons minions, she'll be there to one-shot nearby minions. Really, that's it for her. Next up would be a Seeker. You would really need to bring one Seeker. It's pretty tricky if you don't have any Seekers, because some of the rounds the boss will summon minions on top of the mountain, and you need to have enough mobility to make it up there. And most Seekers would be able to, but not any other type of units. So I do have two Seekers here, but the one that I actually used is Nonowill. The main reason I use Nonowill is not only can she get up there, but she can also take down multiple minions in one time from her AoE attack, her 1000 Blades. And importantly, she also adds Vulnerable Tree debuff on the boss, which is a very important source of additional damage. Additionally, Nonowill also carries Disaster Bottle. In fact, I have two Disaster Bottles in my party, but I'll cover that later. You need to have debuffs on this fight. It's really key. The boss magic attack hurts, and in many cases, without proper buff and debuffs, will one-shot your party. So I don't have any good debuffers in my roster, unfortunately. So I have to rely on Disaster Bottle. Disaster Bottle lands 2 random level 2 debuffs, and the one that you really want is attack and defense down, obviously. So attack will help your survivability, and defense down helps you push damage through. Now, it is random, so for this reason I recommend at least 2 people equipping Disaster Bottles. Once you land, say, attack or physical defense 2 debuffs, if I understand it correctly, the next time you use Disaster Bottle, you will not land the same debuffs, so you will land the next 2 debuffs and so on. So this at least ensure that you will get the attack and defense down debuffs as long as you spam it enough times across 2 different characters. Beyond that, the rest of her gear doesn't really matter. In fact, she's only using level 50. Nonowill's main goal is to take down the minions, and the minions only have like 2900 health. Some of the minions are a little bit more tanky, but this is more than enough to get through the minions. And finally, of course, I'm using Gloria mainly for the auras that she have, and I actually changed her trinket into another Disaster Bottle. I normally use the Spring Pill for additional cure for Gloria, but I really need the debuffs. I tried really hard, and without the debuffs, it's pretty tricky to survive in many of the rounds. So 2 Disaster Bottles make it easy to land enough debuffs to last you throughout the fight. Now here I forgot to change, so I would recommend using Lens of Justice. So I actually accidentally changed it before the fight, and I wouldn't recommend it. But in any case, one important aspect here is this turret, the Judgement Tarot. You don't necessarily need to have it on Gloria. You can put it on another melee character. You can put it on Ravia if you want to. But you need to have at least one of these in your party. And that's because the Judgement Tarot not only lands the Judgment debuff, which gives you additional 10% damage, but the point is that this Tarot gives you a free dispel. And as long as you keep Gloria within 2 tiles of the boss, she will constantly dispel the stacking buff that the boss grants itself. And this way, you can keep the boss magic attack in check and ensure your survivability. So this is pretty key. You need to have a Judgment Tarot. You need to have the dispelling utility to dispel the stacking buff that the boss has. Sorry. So I think that's it for my 5 characters. So I use Cocoa, Ravia, Gloria, Nonowill, and Nangle. So that's it. Let's jump into the battle. So first things first, positioning is really important. I did try a few different variations, but I think this is probably the optimal positioning for this party at the start. First things first, you want to quickly apply Cocoa's AoE buff on everyone, because I will be trying to quickly close the gap to the boss as soon as possible to try and squeeze some damage in before the boss uses its shield. Now Ravia got hit by the boss at the start, which is actually pretty good because my Ravia has a lot of life leech, so she's already back at full health just by smacking the first minion. You want to land one disaster bottle each as quickly as possible, so Nonowill has used disaster bottle on the boss, and you quickly want to use another one with Gloria as soon as you can. That's because you want to land the attack down debuff as soon as you can. The next attack from the boss hurts, and without proper buff and debuff can one-shot a party member. Now this is the attack I'm referring to, and this landed on Gloria. The one thing I forgot to mention in the setup, apologies for that, is Gloria has the resonance that decreases magic damage taken by 15%, and that is very critical. Now the second attack that the boss does always targets the party member with the highest magic defense, and this would be Gloria if you throw down her spear. That's because when Gloria throws down her spear, she gets potential burst, which gives her a whopping plus 40% defense, and that naturally gives her the highest magic defense, and she will be targeted by the boss. She can survive the attack from the boss because she has the resonance that decreases magic damage by 15%, and my Gloria is also defensively built. Now the boss has used its first shield. The difference at level 70 is the boss alternates between magical and physical shield, which means you need both magical and physical DPS in your roster. The first shield is fairly straightforward. I just pursue order Nonowill and she just attacked the boss twice and the shield is gone. Alternatively, actually on hindsight, I think what you can do is just attack once, and on the next turn you can just use urgent order and have Nonowill act before the boss and attack the second time to break through the shield, and that saves you on a little bit of TP. Anyway, once the shield is gone, this is your burst damage window. So I use the flag of Convularia. You want to set the flag on top of the mountain. That's because the boss does a lot of AoE damage, and it will still get hit by some of the attacks, but it's shielded from most of the boss's attacks if you place it on top of the mountain. Have Nonowill hunt down the minion on top of the mountain as well. You don't want to allow minions to live for long, because for each additional minion you deal less damage to the boss, and one of the boss's attacks does 20% more damage per minion alive, and that can one-shot you, so you want to take down all the minions as soon as you can. With the flag of Convularia, you should be able to comfortably survive the boss's AoE attack, so just continue down your rampage. Once the shield is gone, you also want to use another shot of the disaster bottle each on Gloria and Nonowill. The reason for this is every time the boss uses its shield, it will cleanse all debuffs on itself, and it will also become immune to all debuffs. So each time the boss shield is dispelled, just reapply all your debuffs and go to town on the boss. So now there are 3 minions. Again, you want to take care of them as soon as possible. And this is also another reason why Nonowill is pretty good. She can AoE attack down 2 minions and get the boss in the same attack as well. Nonowill easily snipes the last minion at the back, so this allows you to go back on wailing on the boss. You want to keep everyone clumped up as close by as possible as well, because Cocoa is your only healer, and everyone being close by allows you to easily top off everyone with her AoE heal, and also of course allow you to apply the crit buffs on everyone in one move. The second shield here, so now the boss has cleansed all its debuffs. The second shield is a physical shield, so you need to do physical attacks, but I guess this is where Ravia comes in. So urgent order on Ravia and then just go to town on the boss. As long as you can break through the shield, you should be able to survive the boss's next attack. And from here it's rinse and repeat, so once more use disaster bottle to land another round of debuffs on the boss, 1 each on Nonowill and Gloria. Don't forget to also use Nonowill's vulnerable tree, and it's also important because that skill also gives Nonowill dodge. The boss's single attacks can actually be dodged, and it does come in handy. This is actually another reason why I use Nonowill over Cole. There's only 1 minion, so very easy, just have Nonowill go after the minion. You want to have Nonowill and Ravia focus on the boss as much as possible because they're the main source of damage. and this allows everyone to just focus on the boss while Gloria and Cocoa keeps everyone buffed. This is what I was referring to earlier. The boss targeted Nonowill here, but she has the dodge buff up, so that attack is practically wasted, which gives me more free turns to deal damage. This time though, the boss has summoned 3 minions, so you have no choice but to go after all 3. It isn't too difficult because Nonowill has the mobility. Before she went up, she reapplied Vulnerable 3 on the boss. And then you have Reach with Nungle to take care of the minion on the back. You never want to use Gloria to hunt down the minions. Gloria needs to stick to the boss because she has the Judgement Tarot, and you need the Judgement Tarot to continuously dispel the stacking buff that the boss has. While the flag of Convolera is up, you also want to try to spam cooldown moves as much as possible, because the flag also restores 1 energy and reduces cooldown by 1 turn. So stuff like Ravia's Cyclone Strike and Cocoa's AoE heal comes to mind. So same thing as before, have Urgent Order on Nungle so she can add before the boss. And I had Cocoa use the Snow Lotus on Nungle to buff her with damage up. This allows her to easily break through the magical shield. So at this point I checked the boss and it only has 10k HP left, so I just decided to skip the last minion and burst down the boss. That's it, thanks for watching.